think we'll get started. People can log on and come on in. Aaron will keep an eye on the waiting room. I'm Donna Catalano, and thank you for the 2025 Indiana legislative session, tracking a bill. Just a little bit of welcome here. What we'd like you to do is if you could please put your name in the chat room and what town or city that you live in. And if you're with an organization, just kind of throw your organization in there too. So we can collect those. So because we are recording this. A little bit of housekeeping. Keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. The Zoom is being recorded and will be published on social media, and I'll also email it to everybody who registered. And I will also send you out a few handouts that we have too. If you have any questions during the presentation, would you please put them in the chat box? A little bit of background about Legacy Foundation. I'm Donna Catalano, and I am the Outreach and Engagement Manager for Legacy Foundation. Just so you know, Erin Armstrong, our marketing person and guru, she is doing she is the wizard behind this curtain tonight. She's helping me out here and doing my slides, and then she'll do some screens. She'll help Julie with the screen sharing. About Legacy Foundation. Legacy Foundation, as you know, is in Lake County's community foundation. We're a trusted source for philanthropic giving in the region. We help a broad base of people give their time, skills, financial assets. Last year, we gave away over $1.3 million in college scholarships and over $3 million in grants that we've awarded this year. As you can see, our mission statement, transforming Lake County by providing strategic leadership and impactful philanthropic support to ensure equitable opportunities for all communities that we serve. Next slide. And one of the things that we do and what's happening tonight is this is a program, or this is funded by RISE. RISE NWI is like a program of Legacy Foundation. We started out in 2017 with a civic engagement boot camp to try and get more people to run for office. And that evolved in 2018 into our program RISE. We make it easier to get involved in your local government. We try to do some training events. We have educational materials that we put out. We share resources. This year, a number of candidates came and got our trifold brochure. It lists where early voting is, how to vote, when to vote. We try and educate the public and increase voter turnout. We also have some unique programs offering opportunities based on community need, and then we provide custom education and materials for communities based on election and other needs. Next slide. And then also tonight, our presentation is going to be from Julie Olthoff. Julie is our Indiana State Representative for District 19. District 19 covers it covers Lake County, some of Lake County. I think you go into Porter County too, Julie. Okay, so she served 4 terms in this House of Representatives and for Indiana. She was born and raised and educated in Northwest Indiana. She has a small business here for the last 37 years. I'll turn it over to Julie and we'll get started with her program.
Well, thanks for having me, Donna, and all of you that have joined in today. It's good to see some of you. I was commenting that it's a nice night to stay home and come and join this talking because it's so cold out. I'm going to try to share my screen. I practiced this and it worked out just fine. Can you see it? I think you can. Look at that. See?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of hard to track a bill. It goes through so many phases on both sides. It's hard to know where it's at. And hopefully I can help orient you with how to find a bill, how to track a bill. So this website is where you do that. It's iga.in.gov/bill. IGA.gov. So I'm just going to jump right in. IGA stands for the Indiana General Assembly. And so IGA.in.gov. It is kind of set up now, waiting for 2025 to happen. I gotta reduce this a little bit so I could see the edge. So to see the top here, you see there's home, there's information, lots of information about the IGA, probably more than you want to know. One of the handouts that Donna is going to share is how a bill becomes a law. So this is boring, but she has a prettier handout with the top on it. And I've seen some other resources that have all the which way it can go. Back under about IGA, I don't know that any of this is that important for what we're talking about tonight, but you could still see how many resources are there. Here's district information. You could see every legislator's district map, but I'll tell you, the maps are huge, and then they reduce them and kind of squeeze it in, and it's really hard to see what street are the borders. You almost have to download it or figure out a way to see it better. But anyway, for what it's worth, you could see the map. As a legislator, we all have to file this statement of economic interest. Let me see if they're there. Oh yeah, you could select a chamber. We'll say the House, select a year, last year. And if you click on anybody, I'll just go to mine. Let's see. Sorry, JK. Keep going. Here I am. We have to fill this out every year. So just as some history, you could see who owns what, if there's any conflicts. I own Via Marketing. My husband works at Landfrost. We have a rental house in front of our house, which I tease. Like, if you're going to buy a second house, don't buy it next door. Maybe, just saying, maybe Florida or Arizona, as somebody is here. So that's interesting. If you ever want to see if there's a conflict of interest, we have to disclose, boards we sit on. And so I'm on Fairhaven Rape Crisis Center. I've been there for a few years. And Kelly is actually on this watching me. So I got to behave and not do anything that'll embarrass her. So just going back, I hope I'm not going too fast, but that's the statement, the maps, handy information, how to register, legislator database, list of current legislators. And then we get to session. So when I click on, some of this, I don't think the rules are there. Last year's rules are here. You know what? We accepted new rules on Organization Day, which was November 19th, I think, where we all got sworn in and we got started. So there's House rules and Senate rules. So we conduct business following those rules. They're real similar to Robert's rules, but not exactly. It's a little different at the State House. There's nothing under deadlines yet. There's nothing under 2025 digest of enactments because, it's not even here yet. And then you could see some summaries and things like that. So under video, you can actually watch a committee and the House by going on to live stream. But nothing is there to live stream, so you can't see it. I will show you where the calendar is so you can know what time we meet in the House and the Senate and on what day. And then you could go to live stream during those hours and see us in action. They said just as an aside about the chamber, that there were a lot of funny things that the guys were doing. And then when live stream happened, then it got more serious and some of the side jokes don't happen quite as much. When I first came to the State House, I thought we would all have to sit there like we're in church, quiet and very respectful. And then I found out, yeah, no, it's kind of, there's like some really funny people there, and they'll make these little jokes that you'll hear. It doesn't go on constantly, but every now and then there's a zinger that happens, and you think, there's 100 representatives sitting in this room, and sometimes you're sitting there for hours. And if we don't get a break, sometimes it gets a little rowdier as the night goes on. But we try to manage so that there's some respectful decorum that goes on, but it's not as stuffy as you would think it is. When somebody is a freshman and it's their first bill, somebody, like one of the representatives, will go up and ask them really bizarre questions just to kind of get them off their game. And they're really funny. And it's a little fun tradition that is still hanging on there. So in the Senate, you have the Senate calendar, which I haven't looked at because, that's them over there across the hall. And you could see that there's no items on this calendar. And see right here, it goes by day. But then see over here, session schedule, that's where you find where we're meeting. So here's January, and we all start on January 8th. So it'll say no session on these two, session is here. I know here they are swearing in the governor. So we actually get sworn in November. The governor gets sworn in on the second Monday in January. This where it says committee day, you can't really live stream on the chamber floor that day because we're all in committees. You can live stream the committee, which is kind of fun to watch, especially if you're tracking a bill. It's going to be on this particular day in committee. And I can back up a little. So that's where this day, Senate calendar, this will open up. I'm pointing to it like you can see it. This will open up and list a good week out. And then you could click on it and see what's scheduled in what committees on that day. So back to the calendar, it'll go all the way. We're 4 months this year. It's the long session and the budget year. I'm going to bounce back up to February. So we're going to meet hearing bills in the Senate, in the House for all this time. And then here is a second reading deadline and a third reading deadline. We have to be done because there's no session on the 21st and we take a break. So sometimes the 20th and the 19th are longer days because if you didn't get your bill through committee or it got hung up somewhere or you're not moving it along, that's your deadline. And once the bills that are passed on the 20th are done, we take a break because it's the switch. So the offices need time to move the bills from the House to the Senate and the Senate over to the House. The Speaker of the House and the pro tem over at the Senate need that time to assign the bills coming over into committees. And once that happens, here we go again. Session starts on the 3rd. They're going to pull down a committee list. It's really a bill list with the committee assignments to it. And I'll show you where you can see those bill lists. So we are hearing bills on the House side that passed in the Senate. If it didn't get out of the Senate, it's a dead bill. So then it came over to the House. Sometimes they don't get heard. The chairman on the House side will decide, I don't want to hear that Senate bill. It happens on the other side as well. Like, you'll pass it in one chamber, but then they don't hear it on the other side. But if it gets through, we'll be in committees. Committees really meet every day, but Wednesday, there's more committees that meet all day. You can see session in the afternoons. It's usually 10 o'clock on a Thursday because we go home. So most of us who travel, like I do, over 2 hours, stay down in Indianapolis. But on Thursday, we've checked out of our hotel or wherever they're doing and try to get on the road and head home and maybe make it for dinner. We have this ethics and sexual harassment training by statute. So every year we have 2 hours, 1 hour for ethics and 1 hour for sexual harassment training. Still sad, things that happen. There's seems like an incident often, too often for my taste. So here is conference committees. This is the time when, if my bill passed the House but didn't get heard in the Senate, I can ask a senator to put language from my bill into their bill. It has to be appropriate, same topic, to get placed in there, and it has to have passed the House. And so these bills that have gone through conference committee then come back to the floor every day, session at 1:30. So these committees are meeting sometimes the same time we're in session, and you're voting on bills that have been, what would be a good word, refined or jockeyed. It's like the scariest time because you really have to either go in and figure out what changed to all the bills that are on the list that you're going to vote on that day, which I try to do the night before, and you trust a lot your colleagues so that they, when they stand up there, they honestly tell who's live streaming and everybody what got put into the bill. They usually are always very good about that. They have to tell you what's in the bill, what changed in the bill when it came back over. Sometimes they talk fast or glaze over it, but you could always go up and ask questions. But anyway, conference committee time, things get moved around and thrown in things. And on the last day, which would be the 29th of April, is when the budget bill is passed. It's usually the very last bill. It has to sit for 24 hours. So once it's like seconds on seconds, it's approved, then it sits for 24 hours. And that's part of our rules. You can't appeal that the time is reduced. You could do that with other bills. I was on Rules Committee last year, and that's what we did. We heard legislators appealing to the Rules Committee to change the rules so the amount of time it sits is reduced, and they have to explain why. Generally, they go through. It's like, yeah, it's enough time. We want the public to be able to see it before we pass it. So we try to do transparency, but these final days, like the 28th, 29th, 25th, things start moving fast. So it's good to really follow a bill. And if you know the author, they will help you. The staff will help you. We all have legislative assistants that will help our constituents. So don't be afraid to ask. So we were on session. on the Senate. These ones, Democrats and Republicans, it just lists who's serving. So you could see, well, make me a liar. It's a news page. I thought there was a place where it had all our pictures, like it goes over to their caucus. Here it is. So it goes to their caucus page. This is what I was thinking about. And then you could see all the senators, and it has how to connect with them. So you could click and send them a note. When you send your representative or senator that represents you a note, you should get an answer back. We work on constituent services. I try real hard to answer back. And if you reach out to somebody else who is not your direct representative, you may or may not hear back from them. It's standard practice that they forward it to your representative to answer. So if I reach out to, I don't know, somebody in Evansville because I'm unhappy about something, they're not going to answer me. If you write 150 of us, 100 representatives, 50 senators, we might read what you're saying, like vote for this bill, don't for that, or don't vote for that bill, but we won't answer you. Your direct representative will answer you. So that's kind of how you break it up into things. If you weigh in on a bill, there's reports we get that say 100 people said, don't vote for this. So even though I don't know the name of everybody, I will know how many are weighing in or out on an issue, which is pretty interesting and pretty cool what technology can give you, if you will. So the House side under this tab is real similar. You can see our House schedule. It's kind of similar to the Senate, although sometimes our meeting session times are different. Sometimes I think some of their deadlines might be different for second and third, but this is the same on both sides. Where here we'll meet at 11 o'clock and they had 10 o'clock. Here's a couple that are 10 o'clock because there's more work to do on those days. These 11 o'clocks, I think, are because of committees. Like I'm on Family, Children, and Human Services Committee. I haven't found out what I'm assigned to the next couple of years, but I've always been on Family, Children, so I'm assuming he'll put me back on there. We meet Thursday morning at 8:30. So we have to be done in time so we can get to the floor. That limits us to maybe 3 or 4 bills per committee meeting. That kind of slows the whole process down. Over 1,000 bills will be filed easily, and we pass a little over 200. Moving on to committees, there is nothing showing here, not even in interim. There's a little bit. So you could see the interim committees. There's study committees, and they met over the break, from earlier this year's session until now. A lot of what they study turns into bills. So it's real important. We can dive in, ask more questions on some topics, and then those will come up as bills. So you're assigned to the interim committees. They may or may not be the ones you're used to serving on. So legislation, again, there's not much here. Oh, I'm in 24. So when I was practicing, I thought, there's nothing in 25. I'll show them 24. So here you go. And I think that it's probably not that hard to figure out. Over here on the side is a selection of what year. that is so handy. I worked on a child care bill and I couldn't remember what year it was because there's a legislator who's interested in working on some easing up some of the regulations for childcare. And he asked, you had a bill, when was that? So I went through and I found it and sent him the link. So you can see previous bills. If the bill is blue, it passed. If it's gray, it didn't pass. You could sort this by searching here with a topic, active, inactive. I like to just go to legislators. And then you could just put in Olthoff or whoever you want to see. And since I'm still in 2024, you could see the bills I authored, which ones are blue, passed. So we had a limit of 5 bills on the House side in the short session. So I filed 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as the main author here. But then I help some of the other authors with their bills. So I co-authored 4 or 5 more. I co-authored some that didn't get a hearing or didn't pass. They usually didn't get a hearing. In the short session, we still file over 1,000 bills, but there's only 2 months to get them through. So if you got one through, you did well. So this is my bill on that AI digitally altered for election commercials. That passed pretty easily. So I was real happy about that. As you scroll down, there's more co-authoring. This stands for House Concurrent Resolution. So these are recognizing like police officers and different South Bend Fire Department and certain people we want to highlight. People who win the Olympics, will do a resolution to support them. And then here's more resolutions with the R. Concurrent resolutions mean the Senate had approved it as well. And this is just the House resolutions. So then these blue ones are Senate bills that came over to us on the second half. So I sponsored this license suspending bill. It was from Dan Durnell, the senator from Griffith over there. Niemeyer, who's Crown Point with me, but he has way south, and even 2 other counties south of Lake County. And Jim Tomes, co-authored also by Senator Vincent, who's Hobart. And so it had to do with BMV. So it passed, but I carried it. So I presented it in committees and on the floor and got it through. When you co-sponsor, you get your name on the bill. Like you saw those, there are many people on the bill. They're not the lead, so they're not presenting in committee, although they could talk and they could weigh in. But usually the lead is the one who is handling any amendments or changes or things like that. This oversight of the Convention and Visitors Bureau passed. I don't know, let's see who passed that. Niemeyer. And then me and Representative Slager carried it. So you could see by either by representative, like if you search legislation again, by a bill number, or just looking through the bill list, you could search it by subject, which I don't do too often, but they have a list of some of the categories. I get a little frustrated because if you're not saying the exact keyword, you might have to type it in a few times or just go through the list. But it's a pretty long list with 200 bills and all these boards and, like you could see some of these topics. So, you could play around with that and see. And then archives, if you ever want to look what went on. These are pretty old. I don't usually go there because that's before my time in the State House. No, I lost it. Oh no, here we are. Then this tab has our Constitution, the Indiana Code, non-code statutes, acts, history, downloads. Publications include lots of rules, administrative things, rulemaking, all kinds of things. And publications, if you can't sleep one night, you could read tax expenditure list. But it's handy, like it's all right here. So I wanted to dive in a little deeper into a bill. I'll just keep going, Donna, if it's okay. I don't know if you want to break for answers, but nope, just keep going. All right, you got to save up all your questions. So if I wanted to dig it, like where is the bill for that AI disclosure on a campaign ad? Here's the bill. So you would go to this page and you can read the digest about it. You can, if you click on this, it's kind of boring. It just has the pictures and links to our, bio. But this column over here, it will show you the latest version. So since it already passed, here's my latest version. Everything in bold is what was changed or added to the code. And so you could see what happened. At the end of the bill, see this, we said it's an emergency. You usually have July 1st, all the new bills happen every year. So it just kind of waits in processing. The governor has time to sign it. But when it says an emergency is declared, it will become law as soon as the governor signs it. Because this was a campaign bill filed in 2024, when 100 Indiana House representatives are running and all of our Congress representatives are running, we all run every 2 years. Half of the Indiana Senate is running. Probably half of Congress Senate is running. The governor was running. We wanted to make sure that this got in there before the primary, which is in May. So we did the emergency to move it along. I thought it would be on the bottom. I'll show you, like one of these earlier versions would show the changes that happened. So that's the latest version. You could read what finally happened to make sure, you're following a bill. So you know what the original said. What did the final say? So you can go here and look. Many of us read this, which is kind of like a digest of it. I'll say, like somebody will ask me, do you read every bill? Well, I hate to answer that, but no. If we are changing all the pronouns to a she or a he or a they, no, I'm not reading the whole Indiana code to make sure every instance got caught. They have computers that generate that and do it. So if it's something like that, no, I don't read the whole bill because I'm trusting, technology to catch every instance that was said and to change it. So this will say the summary of what it all did. And they are very good about putting all the detail in. And then it talks about the civil action as the penalty. It tells you the effective date. And so fiscal, means how much is it going to cost the state when you pass this bill. So that's really the LSA's fiscal side job. LSA stands for Legislative Services Agency. It's a bank of attorneys and accountants and they write our bills and they produce the fiscal for it. So this person, Chris Baker, said, here's what will cost the state. And it pretty much cites the civil action. So if there's civil actions, revenue will be generated per case. And what the locals will do, so this is pretty much not a huge impact onto the state budget. So you could see, like if you are reading the budget bill, the fiscal is a real good place to go. Sometimes the fiscal doesn't keep up with the changes that happen and they get generated a couple days later. They do their best to keep up as fast as they can and update that. So that's the final, and that's what these two are, the latest version and the fiscal. So don't be afraid to click on the fiscal and read that. Bill details just is the overview. And that's the page that comes up when you search out a bill and it lands you here. Bill actions then is how you track the bill. Where is it and what's going on? So look at the process. Fun. So I authored it. Representative Abbott was added as a co-author. First reading was the first day of session, or maybe the second. So the first day when we meet, all the bills that have been filed so far. So bill filing, I think is January 12th is our deadline. I could find it on the calendar where you guys can point me where to find it. That's our deadline. And I roll by, if I don't have my bill filed by January 12th, it's not getting heard. It's way too late when you think about the volume of all the bills. So once a bill is filed, it goes to the speaker to assign it to a committee. And once it's assigned to a committee, it's generated on a bill list. So on our first day, this year will be January 8th, 2025, the speaker will hand down a bill list and maybe 4 bill lists, and they're all assigned to a committee. So this bill was assigned to a committee. It wasn't read out loud. It wasn't even anywhere until first reading on a bill list. That's first reading. So nothing has to be approved. We're all, it's our duty, I think, to file a bill. And so then it gets put on something, a committee, on a list, and now it's eligible to be heard. So now that I know it's on elections, guess who I call? I kind of knew it was going to be on elections. So then I call the chairman. So I could click here, who's that chairman? And it will show you who's on the committee. Down there, I think you go, here they are. So you could see everybody on the committee and you could start calling them, maybe get a meeting with them. And that's the time that you do it. So if you send me something and it's about a bill and you want me to vote for it, I'm halfway reading it because it didn't get this far. If it's coming to my committee, I will pay a little more attention. I feel like I'm on that committee. It's my job to do my homework, to come to the committee prepared, ask good questions, and make sure before we vote it out of committee, it's in a good spot. And we're kind of taught that. We don't want bills going to the floor that end up with 20 amendments. Then they're not really ready for prime time. They should have never got out of committee with that many amendments, on the floor. Controversial bills will get a lot of amendments. That is expected. But most of the bills, like 95% of our bills, are not that controversial. So you think of my AI bill, I think on the House side, one person voted no. Oh no, out of committee, she voted no because she wanted to see more work done on it. but by the time it got to the floor, she voted yes. So you shouldn't have 4 no's and 5 yeses. It should be in pretty good shape before it goes to the floor. So when I click on the committee, I can look to see where it was assigned. Not there. So I can look here. Yep, here I am. So my bill was heard on January 17th in this room at this time. And there's a way where you could watch it. It's over here. It's kind of blocked for me because I have pictures of you guys that I could see. I could probably change my view and not see that, so I could click over there. But so you could watch that bill in committee being heard and see what people are saying, see what the legislators are asking. A lot of times they are announced only 1 week at a time. So this on the 24th wasn't posted the same time the 17th was, and neither was the 14th. So the chairmen still have time to figure out what weeks they're going to listen to what. So that was committee. Let me see if I'm back. That's here. So you can find the committee. So on the 18th, it was heard and the committee passed it. And then on the 22nd, I added Kyle Miller. Kyle Miller, he's a nice guy. I like him a lot. He's, I think, from the South Bend area. He's a Democrat. And I didn't have a Democrat on my bill before that time. It's smart to have authors from all caucuses if you can. So I'm from the Republican caucus. He's the Democrat caucus. On the Senate side, you'll see like we had all caucuses represented. So if this bill were to have gone to a conference committee, then all caucuses have to agree. And it's nice to have somebody who followed the bill all along. He's been on the committee. He's actually, I pass him all the time on my way to my cubicle. So, I know Kyle, we're okay. So then it went to second reading. It was amended. Here's the amendment that I did. I'm reading this to see if it's in the beginning one or the end one. We expanded it so that it would be school board and local offices. So we kind of changed the definition of candidate. And then we changed here where it's bold to insert lawyery terms, knowingly, intentionally, and recklessly. So I'm gonna go back here. So that's the amendment. Wesco was added as a co-author. He's the chairman of the committee. I'm not gonna say no, because I might need something from him in the future. So I say, okay. And then third reading, here's the roll call. And you could see it's roll call number 49. And you could see who said yes and who said no. You got to click on both. So here's excuse, he wasn't there. So he was either sick or called away or not, he wasn't there for some reason. What if this shows everything? Yep. Shows the same thing. Okay, guess what? Now it gets to go over to Senator Deary over at the Senate side. So they then, in February, after the break, because it was short session, referred it to Elections Committee. Guess what? We already met with the elections chairman because it passed elections. We knew it was going to go over to that committee. Senator Deary had already primed him. And then we met with him and told him everything about the bill. Everybody voted yes on the House side. Will you hear my bill? And they did pretty quick on February 20th. And it passed committee. Then on second reading, it went to the floor. So the floor is first reading when it hits the bill list. Second reading when it goes out of committee back to the floor for all of us to vote and consider. And only at second reading can you file an amendment. So Senator Deary then filed an amendment. He talked to me about it. The LSA, talked to us about these changes. And you could see, it was purpose, change the definitions a little bit. So that got added in. So it's not really a huge substantive change. And that got through. So it passed the floor. Everybody voted yes. So look at that. Everybody voted yes. Senator Randolph was co-sponsor. By the way, you could be co-sponsor, like you ask the author or the co-author, can I get on that bill? Senator Randolph is known as one of the most effective legislators by bill count. So he gets co-sponsor a lot. So it's pretty funny. It's one of the things he does. I like him a lot. He asks a lot of good questions. So now the bill returned to the House with amendments. So that means if the bill would have passed the Senate with no changes at all, then it goes on to the governor. Done. But this bill had an amendment put in, and so it has to come back to the House. So when I got up in front of the House, I had to say, we added this amendment in the Senate. Here's what it did. I didn't have a problem with it. It voted out of committee, voted out of the floor. Everybody's happy. And so then the speaker signs it, the Senate pro tem signs it, and then it goes on to the governor, and he signed it on March 12th. And then it became law on March 12th, the minute he signed it. So if you go to this bill action page, you could see where bills are. I'll continue there. I want to show you what a bill says that didn't get a hearing. So when you see that, well, I'll just do it here. If you see the bill say first reading and then there's nothing, it didn't get a hearing. It went to committee, assigned to committee, and it didn't move. So that's pretty easy, like nothing there. So it's not moving this time. Many of us file bills over and over again, hoping somebody will have a change of heart and hear it. So you could see the amendments over on the Senate side. You could see the amendment on the House side. You could see the roll calls. There'll be a roll call in committee, and there'll be a roll call on the floor. This is probably committee. Yeah, so it's shorter. So you could see Senator Hunley. She's the one that voted no because she wanted a little more work to be done. And then that amendment showed up on the floor, and then she voted yes. House roll call, same thing. You'll get, well, that's committee. That's, I think, second reading. Oh, that's third reading. Trying to find out why there's two here. Oh, you know why? Because it came back and we had to vote again. So one was when it was still in the House, and then it went to the Senate, they changed it, and then it had to come back and we all had to vote again. Bill versions, you could follow all the versions. And when I click on, I'll try this one. Oh, I was going to show you it. It'll say like here it is. It'll add here the committee report, which has the amendment as well. Things that were changed. So you could follow it through the bill. But I don't like to do that. I think this is much easier to just find the amendment and see what changed, but whatever you like to read. Committee amendments, they have those broken out. Not all amendments are offered. Sometimes somebody on the committee will write up 2 or 3 versions. And they have to do it pretty quick. You only have 48 hours or something to put an amendment together with LSA. So they'll do one and then they'll figure out, oh, that wasn't good, or they talk to the author and they said, add some more in it. I really wanted this in there, but I didn't have time, and put something else in there. So they'll change a bit, but you could see, which ones they heard in committee. Committee report shows you, it's like this document from the chair. Representative Wesco is the chair of elections, that he heard it and it passed. So there's a lot of like accountability. So you just can't say my bill passed. It doesn't really pass without him signing this. He can't sign it unless it passed. So, it's not a bad thing to have documentation and awareness of who's doing what and moving it where. There's responsibility that's attached to being a chairman. So this is concurrent conference committee reports. So since we didn't go to conference committee, there's nothing here. But they would do the same kind of thing. Here's the amendment that showed up in conference committee, and here's who voted for it and voted against it. So you have just followed a bill, and what do we have? 5 minutes left. So hopefully I didn't put you to sleep. It's a lot. It's just a lot. But I've walked through it a few times, so I get it.
Okay, we did have, I see, Bob asked, about your AI bill.
Yes.
Bob, what was your question? Go ahead and say it.
Just wanted to find out a little bit of the gist of the bill, what it limited, what it allows.
Well, let's look. On the latest version, it says, well, you start with definitions. So it defines a campaign communication. So that is anything, like any media. I think this is the section that does that. So it's a communication that advocates for the election or defeat of a candidate. So one of Senator Hunley's thing was not all campaign messages are directed to the candidate. Some are directed to the positions they take. Some campaign messages are paid for by lobby groups, and they're made to deface somebody or defame somebody, and that should be included. So they said that would injure or influence the account. So that was added in there in one of those amendments. And the purpose of that communication, or some of the details, has to have the name of the candidate, a video, photograph, or drawing, and fabricated media. So I really like that they use the word fabricated, because it means they made it up. It's not real, it's fabricated. And then, like, the main thing is they have to be running for federal, state, school board, local. Here's what fabricated is. Media. So I was trying to encompass all media, whether it's print, digital, photography, like anything that you could create. And if you change something on there, material inaccurate depiction of speech, appearance, or conduct, now you're in trouble because you altered it. And then we had to put this in because there's campaign things that go on all the time. Like they'll put my head on a different body. That happened one time, but it was a better body. And I was like, oh, that's not me, but I'm liking it. And they were doing like some kind of a movie theme, but there was a candidate in a primary this year, and they put his head on a ballerina body. Well, a reasonable person knows that that is fabricated. So you didn't have to put the disclaimer. So then if all of that is happened, then you have to put a disclaimer on it. And let me see if I can find the words. So here's the media means this. And the disclaimer says, elements of this media have been digitally altered or artificially generated. I think probably now by the end of this year, last number I heard was 37 states passed it. So here's the thing. If you're a federal candidate, you would have to file a grievance in 37 states. So really, Congress should take this up and pass it so that it encompasses all states, especially for federal candidates. So when that happens, this part of the code will be overridden by whatever the federal people did, but the state part of it will stay. State, local school board, that will stay. And then it talks about the plaintiff's action and a civil penalty. So pretty much, if I'm the candidate, I see that they did something digitally altered that didn't put me in a better light. It's up to me to file a court case or to send a letter like, hey, stop it.
Yeah.
There was an incident in a governor race and here, and it was Braun's campaign, and they changed something on McCormick's picture or something. They changed colors in there, and McCormick campaign took it to the press, and then they changed it and took it down right away. So, I don't think they're filing anything because they took it down right away. And that's exactly why I wanted to do this, because campaigns will try to get away with things as much as they can. That's the truth.
Okay, another question. If you're following a certain bill, is there a way you can sign up for notifications of if that, of any actions that are being taken?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you have to look. Yeah.
And
See.
when I send out the recording and the handout that I have, I'll do a little diagram as how you can get to this section here so that you can, a little, down arrow, legislative, our House, and this and that. So let me ask you, Julie, everything starts in the House, correct?
Oh, no.
No?
The budget bill starts in the House.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But so there's bills that start in the House and bills that start in the Senate. And then at that break, we switch. Whatever passes.
Oh, okay. So SB, so that's how you follow them. HB, SB.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. Yes.
All right.
Right.
A lot of stuff out there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is a long session, so there'll be lots of stuff out there.
Yes, there will be. And I actually like the long session better than the short session. The short session is so rushed.
Yeah.
You really have to be on your game, pay attention to what's happening. And the long session, there's just a little bit more time to digest things. And it's the budget. The budget year, everybody is asking for more money, and that's their job. And it's true that if you had a little bit more money, imagine what you could do. But we have budget restrictions, so we can't give everybody everything. And then that's up to the House and really Ways and Means to sort it out. Then the budget bill goes over to the Senate and they will say, oh yeah, we fixed it. And then it has to go through the governor. So once it's like maybe halfway through the Senate, the leadership is talking to the governor's office. Um, you know, like you want to make sure some of his initiatives are in there. Right now, not everybody is on the same page with property taxes. So that'll roll around a little bit until a consensus is found, or what is the best way to start. We're all sensitive to affecting locals because that's where they get their money. Too much. We don't want to do that, but we don't want it to keep increasing either.
Well,
So
and
we'll find a
yeah.
place. Yeah.
And one of the things I liked when you and I were at our Voice of Business meeting last week, you said that most of the ideas for your bills that you introduce have come from your constituents.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
So that's when you can write Julie and say, "Hey, I've got a great idea," or and that's where they start. It starts with us.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yes, here's a problem. I can't get this happening through a state agency. We need to fix it.
yeah.
Now sometimes I'll comment that I don't know that that's really going to happen. Police officer wanted us to consider securing all our pets. So crated or leashed, not on your lap in the front seat because they're a distraction. And I was like, do you know how many people died from that distraction? Do you know how many tickets you gave out because they were a distraction? There's no recorded data about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so 2 days later, I'm driving behind a car and the dog in the back seat, he's so cute. He's running from one window to the other window in the back seat, looking out, like what's he doing? I don't know that he was really inhibiting the driver's attention. So I try to be honest and say what I think and not
Well,
really
yeah,
sure.
that's discussion time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even though you pass a law doesn't mean it's going to stop people from doing things,
No, I mean,
right?
how
Yeah,
often do we still see people on their phone with their held to their ear when it's supposed to be, handless?
that's right.
Yeah. So,
That's right. Yeah.
so anyway, any other questions?
No.
No?
Well, thank you
So,
for listening to me for an hour.
well, even me, I'm pretty active in this stuff, but I've learned something tonight. I've learned how to do that. And like Julie says, don't ever give up. There's still bills that I think remember I talked the other day about Linda, was it Linda Lawson?
Yes.
Yeah, introduced a bill every year for what?
Yeah.
Equal
Equal
pay?
pay. Yeah, equal pay. Yeah.
Equal pay, and she introduced it every year for 25 years, and it never made it to committee.
Yeah. I've got one going on 4 now.
Oh, 4,
Years.
yeah?
I'll
What's
look
your
it
bill?
up.
What's your bill?
Um, it makes so much sense to me. Um, convicted lifetime sexual child predators cannot live 1,000 feet from a park and an HOA. So those are private parks. Right now, the law says that convicted predator can't live 1,000 feet from a public park. But the minute you live in an HOA, my district, Crown Point, Winfield, Hobart, HOAs everywhere, you aren't protected like if you did not live in an HOA. So it was just this year that um, the guy in charge of the commission for court appointed attorneys, I was talking to him on another one of my bills that I'm working on. He said, oh, I could tell you why they won't hear that. I was like, please, they keep saying like, where will they live? I don't get it. Not 1,000 feet from a park. What's, what's so hard about that? There's plenty of places. So
Yeah.
I guess years ago, before I got there, they were looking at the code, and our Indiana code gets cleaned up and refreshed by title section in rotation. So it came up and they were reading the code, and over time, so many people passed bills where convicted predators couldn't live that they had to go back in and, change it so that they can live somewhere. Like you can't have them all live in an apartment with big title on it. Convicted predators live here. That's not right. But so they got rid of it all, most of it or something. So that's where the chairwoman is coming from. So now that I know that, I have more ammunition to go kind of sweet talk her into hearing my bill this time and see what happens. There's also a little bit of differentiation between our heavily populated Lake County compared to rural areas. So that smart attorney said, if you say convicted sexual predators can't live in HOAs, where are they going to live? They're going to live in the rural counties. And so the rural counties don't exactly want the bill. And that's the kind of things legislators have to face. Like, people are different all across the state. People live in different areas. We're different. And so then I said, well, then maybe I'll just make it for HOAs that are this size. Well, you can't have special legislation like for a certain thing. I'm working on it. I'll keep working on
All
it.
you can do.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julie.
my
Thank
pleasure.
you all for logging on and joining us this evening. We'll be doing some more things in the near future. Next year is my goal is to have some boot camps and workshops on getting people to run for office. So we shall see. We shall see you again. Don't forget, if you have a great idea, contact your legislator and pitch that idea. You never know.
Never know.
Yeah,
We don't know unless you tell us.
that's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Night.